Okay. The second time's the charm on this video. I promised I was gonna do this. This is the Bloodpoint Economics 101 of Dead by Daylight. We're gonna start on Survivor. Survivor's a lot easier to explain than Killer. Actually, no, we'll go to Killer first. Killer's very easy to explain, okay? Now, mind you, I prestige most of my killers except for Pyramid Head. So, allow me to explain what you need to go for. So, in a Blood Web, this is the key, you always need to take the perk, okay? For Killer, the most valuable thing you can take besides the perk, which you always should be taking, is the add-on. Period. Offerings are secondary. When it comes to offering, the most important offerings you can take in order: Mori, Map, Black Ward, Bloodpoint. In that order. 1 through 4. Black Ward lets you keep your offering, your add-ons, so it's the most valuable. Mori, best way to piss off survivors. Map lets you control the game better where you're going to, lets you cater around your killer's playstyle and power. Bloodpoint offering, best thing you can run, the survivor pudding and the hollow shell. After that, I would say the party streamer, because it affects the survivor. You don't want to give them any other advantages. But add-on should be the most important thing that you prioritize. Survivor, believe it or not, is more complex. Survivors have an extra category to worry about. They have items to worry about, not just add-ons. And that drastically changes. So I'm going to show you some level 50s characters to show you what the deal is. Now, I showed in the previous Blood Web video, you always want to focus on the perk. The perk is the most important part of the kit. And this is true. Like how to play this Blood Web right here. Resilience is the perk I want the most, so I'd be purchasing this and this. So I have access to that. For my other two items, I would probably pick up this, because it gives me the choice between the two lower perks. And I would take this, because I want the purple flashlight the most, if I were to lose the other perk. So by taking the resilience as the next one, it would probably take either the auto dick or the lucky break. Probably take the auto dick over here. So that would let me take the purple flashlight, and the next thing it would take would be the Sweet William or the chalk pouch. And I would just snag object just to get it out of the way, which would automatically take the lucky break. Or if I wanted the lucky break, what I would do is I would, instead of taking the purple flashlight right away, I would take the med kit. So the Blood Web would take this, and it would have to take the intense halogen. So that would let me snag both the lucky break, which would automatically take the object, and then I'd take the purple flashlight. Just an example of a refresher on how to play it. But how do you determine what you should go for? The most important thing you need to look at first is what type of a survivor are you? There's 5 types of survivors. So you have the Blendette, who is going to be focused on stealth and survival. If that's the case, you need to focus on picking up your get-out-of-jail-free cards, maps, keys, and survival offering. If you are a chaser, someone who wants to get chased a lot and is the aggro survivor, you want to focus on flashlights and boldness. If you are the gen jockey of your team, you want to focus on toolboxes and objective offering. If you are the altruism specialist on your team, you want to focus on medkits and altruism for heals and unhooks. If you're an all-arounder like me, it comes down to preference. But how do you determine what is most valuable when you're taking a Blood Web? So first off, you always want to take the perk. The perk is the most important, because the perk is limited in the amount that it comes up in the Blood Web. So how do you choose, besides the perk, what is most valuable? Well, first off, the offering is more important than the item in most cases. And let's look why. So the offering, and then the add-on, then the item. Why is that? Items, for the most part, except for the single-use ones like firecrackers and keys, can be carried over from game to game as long as you escape or whiteward it. Add-ons are not. So this inherently means that one yellow toolbox is guaranteed to last you longer than any one yellow add-on. Because the toolbox will survive if you escape. The add-on will not without Ace in the Hole or a white ward, even if you escape. So the toolbox is less valuable. You can find shitty toolboxes or shitty medkits in the environment, which don't lend themselves to being useful on a blood whip. What lends itself to being valuable is the add-on, because the add-ons are consumed when you run the item. Like, look. This is a purple Sabo toolbox, okay? This considerably increases sabotage speed. This is 6,000. I can run a yellow toolbox with an add-on, and this does this same exact effect. It has less charges, and it has less sabotage speed than the purple one does. But, because I can reuse this toolbox over and over again, as long as I have these add-ons, I don't need to purchase that purple toolbox. Same thing with the medkit. This brown medkit can last me a good long time by putting on a gel dressing. I've doubled the lifespan of this medkit, and I can keep this medkit for the next game. Which means the next game, well, if I want to get rid of it, I'll just run a styptic agent, and now I can get rid of the medkit too. Now, if that were, say, a green medkit, obviously adding the charges would be more valuable. But the next game, escaping and replacing the charges with a styptic agent wouldn't be beneficial because the medkit isn't designed for that, whereas the brown one is. The brown one's the burner medkit. Offerings are always the most important thing because offerings give you a great degree of control. Unlike Killer, whose actions tend to control the flow of a game, Survivor has no control going into a game. None. Obviously, your skill will affect the game, but Survivor can. So what are the most important things for you as a Survivor to acquire? Well, the number one most important thing for you to acquire is the Escape Cape. This is your primary add-on or offering that you want to go for. This works if you're queuing solo or in a Survive with friend. It doesn't matter, it doubles your blood points. Doesn't matter how good you are, doesn't matter how bad you are, as long as you aren't DCing, you get the benefit of this add-on. This makes it the single best offering for Survivor. Now, the second best offering for Survivor is the Bloody Party Streamer. Bloody Party Streamer grants double blood points to all survivors. The downside to this is, if you're a solo player, you don't get much value out of this. It works best as a Survive with Friend-esque perk, or add-on offering. Because Killer also benefits from this as well. This can also change how a Killer plays. Then is the Bound Envelope. Bound Envelope is number 3, because it's 25%, but it's basically a lower grade version of a party streamer. There's no real downside to not running it, other than not getting as much blood points as the other ones. It affects all survivors, everybody, and Killer, everybody benefits a little bit. Fourth is maps. Maps let you as a survivor control where you're going. It doesn't matter what map it is, just having it makes it good. Now, you may be a survivor that sits there and goes, oh my god, I just can't stand going to fucking lurries. Getting that map offering is critical when you need to fuck over other people. Or when you want to fuck over a killer. You don't understand the amount of times we've put on a lurries offering, and we've gotten a hillbilly who has DC. Now, there will be the times that you'll get a fucking ghost face that's just going, yeah boy, lurries, dumbasses. But you have to take that risk. The map is always more important. Those 4 offerings are the generic 4 that you always want to go for as a survivor in terms of offering. Other than that, it comes down to personal preference. Your 100% blood point offerings are great, but they're only in a certain category. So, you have to choose. Your 75% blood point offerings are great, but they're only in a certain category. So, and you also need to remember that the category cap is 8 grand. Oh, that's the dog. 8 grand is also where we're going to go with the next thing in terms of how you economize, in terms of how much blood points you're actually getting out of a game. So, perks don't count when adding up the price, because once you have them, you have them. And the item doesn't really count because you carry it over. Single-use add-ons like your anti-heroic syringe, the Staples agent, or the brand new part don't count because they're burned on use. All of your other add-ons, however, do, because they cost money. Same with your offerings. So let me give you a great example of how you need to think as a survivor in order to economize and actually make playing the game profitable. Let's take a look at this objective offering. This is 100% blood points in the objective category. This means that if you get your objective category maxed out at 8,000, this offering will give you an additional 8,000 blood points, which is nice. So, the maximum amount of blood points as a survivor you can get without offering is 32k. Now let's set up a build for this. Now remember, we're not counting the item, so the Commodious doesn't count. And we're not counting the single-use item, so we're not bringing a brand new part for this experiment. We are going to bring 2 items. The best 2 items you could run are going to be a wire spool and a scraps. So, that's 4,000, 7,000, 12,000. That means that this setup right here costs you 12,000 blood points. We don't include the item because if you escape, you carry the item with you. And we don't count the perks because the perks carry over from game to game anyways. But these are consumed per game. That means you need to make a minimum of 12,000 blood points that game to break even. And allow me to explain why the green ones are also better than the yellow ones. So remember that you get 8,000 blood points out of this offering. If you max that objective, you'll get 8,000 blood points because it's double your score. Now you have to take out the 5,000 blood points that it costs. That means this game gives you a 3,000 blood point game on objective. Now let's compare this to the yellow version of it. The yellow version of it only costs 4,000, but it also only gives 75%. This means maxing out the 8,000 will only give you 3/4, so it'll give you 6,000. Plus, you have to minus the cost of the offering itself, which is 4 grand, which means you're only going to be getting 2 grand extra out of that. And the same goes for the brown version, which you max out the objective, which is 8 grand. This gives you an additional 4 grand. But the offering itself costs 3 grand, therefore it only gets 1 grand. This is why it becomes critical when you run a themed offering, such as objective, that you plan the rest of your build to go along with it. This is why whenever you pick up the objective offering, you need to make sure you have the objective add-ons for it. If I were to, for example, run a yellow flashlight with this, let's put some add-ons. The best setup I could go for would be the 2 batteries. Okay, so this add-on setup right here costs 9,000 blood points right here. Well, I don't get any benefit except from doing gens. Now, I don't have anything to help me do the gens faster in terms of my item, because, again, I'm not counting the perks. So, I'm only going to be getting the 100% bonus blood points for objective. This means I'm less likely to cap the objective category. Now, obviously, if a killer chases you all game, you won't be able to get the value out of it. But this combination of adding up the cost of your offering and add-ons to determine how much per game is actually just as important as figuring out how much you need in order to pip. See, in order to pip, you need to figure out how much altruism you need, how much objective you need, how much survival you need, how much chaser you need in order to pip up. The same thing for making blood points also applies here. If you find yourself constantly escaping, but you never escape with blood points, that's because you're not syncing your offering and your items up. Now this is where I will bring out my Detective Tap, who I am currently trying to unload and prestige. Based off of what I run on this character, so let's say I'm running a Hazy. Well, this is a generic add-on, so I can run pretty much anything here. Which means I can run any of these with no real penalty. That's pretty much what I have. If you notice I haven't gone for the brown ones, well, that's because, let's look at the objective one. So I run my objective offering, and I slap on my objective item, which is the toolbox, which again doesn't count because I can escape with this, which means I have to look at my add-ons. The only add-on I have is a 3,000 blood point one. So, this cost me 6,000 blood points to put together, which is generally a low bar to get out. This means if I do well and escape with a lot of blood points, this game is very profitable to me. Compare this to Ace. Okay? Now, my Ace, if I were to run that same objective offering, Commodious, let's say I run this instead. This same 12,000 blood point setup is a lot harder of a threshold for me to clear. Now, Ace makes it work because of Ace in the hole, because I also keep the add-ons. This means that I only need to make 5,000 blood points for the game to be profitable, technically. But that's if I survive. If I die, I lose the item and the offering. That's why whenever you die as a survivor, you always want to make sure you've done enough in-game to warrant the death. Because if you plan on going into a game saying, fuck it, I'm gonna die, well, now you have to add the item. If I die this game is a 17,000 blood point loss. Versus going to Detective Tapp, where Detective Tapp, I ran a brown toolbox in addition to that. This setup right here is a 9,000 blood point loss if I die, because I don't keep the item. Blood point economy. Learning how to economize your survivor and your killer are the keys in order to successfully ranking up characters successfully. That's why I always play my level 50 characters without prestiging them, except for Zarina. Fuck Zarina. But leveling up my characters, I always unload them like I'm doing with Detective Tapp. Sure, I could just prestige him because I don't have a lot of valuable stuff left on him, but then I would be wasting all of those blood points that I spent and consequently need to earn back. This is why it's not a good idea to just bum rush a character up and prestige them with all their shit. Thanks for watching.